Welcome to the AfterWord from the Loft. Vince and Kirsten aren't here to help me with that, and Eric will refuse to. Today, I am joined by Eric and Austin and Deanna Winters, a first-timer for the podcast. Welcome, Deanna.
Yay.
And welcome, Austin. It's great to have you back.
Thank you.
I'm Betty. Yeah, today, to kick us off, we have an intro question that requires us to think back pretty far in our lives. What is the earliest memory you have?
Can I start? I know mine right away.
Oh, yeah?
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to start. When I was younger, I was absolutely convinced that I remember being born.
No.
Yes. No, I'm not kidding. And so I would, maybe it was a dream that somehow I got confused with reality, maybe. But I remember telling my mom, like, I remember, and my thought was, this is going to sound like reincarnation, but my thought was, here we go again. And then I was like, being born.
Oh my gosh.
So that is, that's a pretty early memory.
So is your early memory now you being born, or is it you remembering that you thought you remembered that you were born?
Good question. Good
that,
question.
That's actually really interesting because my wife has told me, she's learned about this, that every time you remember something, you're actually just remembering the memory. And so every time you remember, it becomes a further step removed from reality. You're just remembering the memory. You remember the memory of the memory of the memory, and then on and on and on and on and on.
Wow. Okay, but is that you saying you remember you being born?
Oh,
is that you saying it?
I don't, maybe.
There's no way, right?
So many times.
Yeah, I think science would say that's not going to happen.
Okay. Wow.
Beat that.
Well, mine is not being born. Mine is probably, I don't know, maybe if this is something all little boys do, but I remember climbing on things all the time. And so I have two of them. One being, when you can fit in a door frame, being able to climb up it without anything. You just sort of wedge yourself up and climb up it and being proud about that. And the other one was, I remember thinking, I like chocolate milk, and sometimes I get tired of drinking water, right? And we had this fish tank, and I remember getting a glass of chocolate milk and somehow climbing a piano bench and then dumping the chocolate milk all into the fish tank.
No way.
Yeah, no, so that one can't have been too young, right? Because you can climb up on something, but I remember thinking through that logic.
You're a naughty little boy.
Well, I was trying to help the fish, right? I just wanted something good to drink.
You're just too loving and kind.
I don't remember if they made it or not, but I did that, yeah.
That's good. It's a good question, Betty. Let's keep going.
I had one that came to mind, but I think I have an earlier one. This isn't like a distinct thing, but I remember being in BSF, or Bible Study Fellowship, when I was a kid, and I would always cry every time that I got dropped in. Oh no! Oh wait. Okay. Actually, I remember something very specific from that now.
Okay.
That is like a distinct memory. When I was in BSF, I fell in the toilet.
You fell into the toilet?
Yes. And I was wearing a 101 Dalmatians sweater, and I was across the hall from my mom, and I was screaming for her, and she never heard me.
You were stuck?
Yeah. I was like 3.
Okay, so when you say you were in BSF, that you were like in the child care portion.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like a kid.
Oh, I got you. I
went there with my mom and was in
Gotcha.
like the kids stuff.
Getting stuck in a toilet.
Yeah.
My earliest memory. So, okay. I came to America in kindergarten, so I did not know English, but my mom put me in the neighborhood school, and I didn't know one word of English. So my earliest memory is being a kindergartner at a brand new country, brand new school.
Oh, man.
Nobody spoke Spanish, and I did not speak English.
Oh, no.
So I found a little friend, and she would translate for me in kindergarten.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's probably my earliest. I don't remember a lot before then, but I remember that. And then I had to be transferred to another school who actually had a Spanish program. So,
Sure.
yeah.
Wow.
That's
That's
great.
such a sweet memory.
It was a sweet friend. And then
Seriously.
I found her in high school again, same person. So it's really cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Wow.
Wow, that's sweet. And Eric might remember being born.
There's no way. There's no way,
That's his
right?
memory. Great.
Oh.
Wow. Thanks, everyone. I hope everyone got to know us a little bit better. Eric, could you give us a recap of your sermon from today?
I would be happy to. So we looked at 1 Corinthians chapter 4 through 9. Paul continues really the opening of his letter here, the church in Corinth. And it's all Thanksgiving. This is a big section of Thanksgiving. It's typical that letters would have a section of Thanksgiving, and we have one here. But in a lot of other places, if you read, Paul is certainly thankful for what God has done, but he's also thankful for something that the people have done. In this one, there's nothing that he's thanking God for that the people have done. It's all what God has done on their behalf. And so we just walk through 5 different things of what Paul says that he's thankful to God for about the Corinthian church. All of this in the context of a letter written to a church that is struggling with pride in some deep, deep ways that expresses itself in some really shocking ways that we'll read in the coming weeks, and some more, I guess, maybe normal ways like divisions and things that we wrestle with today as well. But it's a really prideful church. And so he is now thanking God for some amazing things that's among them, but it's all things that God has done for them. And so we ask the question, like, what is the picture of God being painted here that help can correct our view of God as we wrestle with pride? And the big idea is that we see that God is a gracious giver and that we are receivers. And that's our role, and that's our relationship. I think that helps to be an antidote to pride a bit.
Thanks, Eric.
You're welcome.
In case anyone got confused, we're in chapter 1, verses 4 through 9.
What did I say?
Chapters 4 through 9.
Wow, we covered a lot.
Yeah,
That's a lot of
sermon today.
Thank you for that correction.
Yes, of course. And did you have? I didn't ask beforehand. Did you have anything further from your study that you wanted to share?
Oh, I don't know. If anything comes to mind through conversation, I'll pull it up. Probably, but I can't think of anything right now.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Thanks for the recap, Eric, and thanks for giving the sermon too. I found that helpful. I know we're going to dive into some deeper content, but before we do that, real quick, I just had a quick question about something you mentioned, the letter to the Galatians, right?
Oh, yeah.
So in that letter, Paul doesn't include a thanksgiving at the beginning, but he does here in his letter to the Corinthians. Do you have any thoughts on why that might be, or, even just the context of Paul writing to the Galatians? That'd be helpful.
Yeah, because both churches are struggling with some deep issues, right?
Sure.
So what's the difference? It's just speculation. With the churches in Galatia, they are abandoning the truth of who Jesus is. They are playing with a whole nother gospel, which is different than what the church in Corinth. They got some messed up stuff, but his concern doesn't seem to be the same as the churches in Galatia. And so maybe Paul was in a different emotional state over the need that he sees in the church, and that's why he skips over it. That's just a guess. These churches in Corinth, we know he has probably the deepest relationship with of any of the churches also. It's likely he wrote 4 total letters. We only have 2. So a lot of correspondence back and forth. And so maybe some of that deep relationship he has with them is some reason why he includes the Thanksgiving here too. It's a good question. I don't really know the answer to it.
Yeah. No, even that's helpful. Just knowing they are struggling with different things and all that. It's curious, huh?
Yeah, it is curious.
I think that was a good point, just about how we talked last week about how Paul spent a lot of time in Corinth.
Yeah.
And so he developed a lot of relationships with them. So maybe because he knew them more intimately, that he would not skip over a Thanksgiving, that he wanted that relationship to come across first before he did the hard stuff. Like, I love you.
It's coming, right?
Like the sandwich, like the compliment sandwich, that's good things first and then hard things and then good things.
That's right. No, that's the good point too, right? Because I have to think people are more receptive when they remember that relationship too, right? Great point. Wait, so there might be 2 more letters out there to the Corinthians?
Yeah, that have been lost.
Oh.
Maybe there's some place where they would be rediscovered, which we won't talk about this more, but it raises a really interesting question. Like, would that then be considered scripture? Would it not? Yeah. The canon is closed. We know we have everything that we need, but what if another letter of Paul surfaces? It's a whole other conversation. But yeah, there's evidence that's probably in these 2 letters that we have. He talked about other correspondence, so probably at least 2 others.
That's a much better point about would it be considered canon. And I was thinking about quitting my job and being a treasure hunter, going to go look for stuff. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, man.
One big point that you mentioned in your recap and in your sermon, that a lot of just what we see in the Corinthian church is pride. So to just start, I guess maybe not start, for a question, just like make it applicable, where in your life does pride tend to express itself for you? And Eric mentioned too that there are two ditches of pride where it's more self-righteous or there's more like self-deprecation. So where do you see that present itself?
I think for me, during the sermon, I went straight to the self-loathing part as pride. I thought that was really interesting because oftentimes I'm like, oh, I have to be humble. And so I have to speak in that way that that I need to humble myself. So that's where I first went. But right before we were talking about how my son, David, is a good speller. He spells words very well. So, and that just reminded me that actually, there's a lot of times that I take pride in my kids and their accomplishments. So then I see that as like, oh, I'm a good mom. Like I'm doing a good job, or like comparing myself to maybe the way other kids behave or something. And so pride definitely is there, when I think about my kids. And like, I know there's a good sense of pride that that can be. But I definitely see where my heart can go to that pride of like, oh, my kids are great. And that's a reflection of me and my parenting. So
that's a great example. Yeah.
I think that brings up an interesting point that a lot of the things we take pride in are good gifts or gifts we have from God or real things, but it's so easy for us to twist them. And I don't know, maybe pride sneaks in as soon as we take any of those gifts and twist it into, and how does that, relate to me, or how does that show my greatness? Right? I agree. It seems more rare that arrogant or that sort of pride wells up. It feels like unless I've done something I think is really impressive, it's so much more often that self-loathing or insecurity. And that it's really just a trap for me that I get caught up in, okay, how are people viewing me? Or I went to this social gathering and how did I come across? And you realize at the end of it that, wow, I was only thinking about myself or how I came across, and you miss out on, one, others and what's going on in their life, but two, even just the joy of the moment and what's happening. I completely missed all of it because I'm just focused on myself, right?
Yeah, I know I mentioned this earlier, but man, I think probably everything for me, it can slip into pride, at least in some expression. But usually it's stuff around like accomplishments or something that was done that I think either I think or I convince myself makes me better than other people. And so those are examples all over the place. I'm trying to think of some good ones. Oh, here's a good one. School is a classic example of this because you are literally getting a grade and other people are getting a grade, right? So that competitive can kind of come out, but it's not just like good-spirited competitive. Like there's easy to find a lot of pride in that. So I did, but that just shows itself still in other places of life, and I'm not in school anymore. Yeah, it's a big piece of me, unfortunately.
I think that's a good point too, right? That different seasons of your life, it'll probably look different. I relate a lot to that, Eric, because test taking just came natural to me. So I got a lot of pride in school, but it's been so you're in an environment where it's easy for you to excel, and just natural, right? You get pride in that and find worth in what you're doing well. But then for me, this season out of school, where I've been in a job that I don't view as meaningful, how quickly it switches to, well, I'm not doing anything important and there's no feedback that I'm doing well. Yeah. And it's almost like that pride just took a nosedive into the self-loathing where I don't think I'm doing well. So I'm still in pride. It's just I'm loathing what I'm doing and all of that, right?
It's so interesting because you're right. It's still pride. It's just expressing itself in different ways. And so like the Corinthian church, it was the same pride that we wrestle with. It expressed itself in some ways that maybe we don't individually wrestle with necessarily, and others that we might. But like you, Deanna, with your kids, like before you had kids, that's not a place you found pride in.
Right.
But now in the season of life, it is a way that's expressing itself.
Right. And also with that, when my kids mess up, it's a reflection on me. And so I'm like, oh, I'm a horrible mom. Or when I mess up as a mom and I yell at my kids or do something that I feel terrible about, then I go into that I'm a terrible mom. I'm like, oh, I'm failing them. Like they're going to have to go to counseling, like all this thing. So yeah, it's so true. You could easily, it's still pride because it's all about me and what am I doing as a mom? And whether they're doing good, then it's pride that I'm doing good. If they do something bad, it's pride that it's all about me and something I've done. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
What about you, Betty? Where does it express itself?
Well, I see myself in both ditches a lot, but I think with more of like the self-righteous arrogance piece, like school was a huge one for me. I really cared about how I did in school and took a lot of pride in how I did in school. And I've seen that kind of shift in this newer season of life. But I think one place specifically where I maybe struggle with that more is this is largely a blessing. But I think in a lot of ways I see comparison and then pride come in with my roommates because three of us, or I'm in a similar job to two of them, like just in different kinds of ministry roles. And I think there's a lot of comparison that comes in with having very similar jobs. And I think there are ways that I take a lot of pride in how I do this thing one way and think it's the right way, or how I feel like I'm failing in this way because they're not experiencing that. So I think that's like a very specific area for me. But I think especially recently, I've seen it more in the self-loathing like ditch and just like all across life. I just feel like, and a lot of that's too trying to like compensate for the arrogance. You were kind of saying that, Deanna, and like wanting to be humble, but then it just kind of quickly turns to like, oh, like I'm the worst. And so yeah, it's usually just trying to combat the other, and I just swing too far one way or the other and don't land in the middle. So
it's so deeply rooted inside of us, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, and that is such a struggle. I have to think for Christians in general, right? Where you see the teachings in the Bible, right? God opposes the proud. So I need to be humble. I need to be humble. I remember hearing it for the first time that humility isn't, just you beating yourself up over and over, but more so thinking about yourself less and more on others. But it is so hard when you're trying to fight pride not to fall into I'm just the worst. And same vice versa. If I'm self-loathing or I have low self-esteem, right? I should be confident in Christ, but how do you fight against that and not get into pride, right? What a tough struggle.
Yeah, and it's like a cycle sometimes because I see it, I notice it, I'm like, oh no, I'm the worst. And now I'm the worst for thinking I'm the worst. And it just keeps going.
Sure.
Well, one question related to this that Eric thought would be fun to talk about is how, when we talk about pride and the ways that it presents itself in our lives, what is the false view of God that's being created through that?
Yeah, I'm really interested in this.
I think for me, the first thing that came to mind was, I think I tend in my pride to view God in whatever light makes me look best. And so if I'm crushing it and doing well and feeling like I'm gifted and finding success, well, then of course God created the earth, but really he let me do what I will. He's like, I'm down here working it. I'm making this stuff myself. So God's not really involved, right? Whereas if things are going bad and I feel like I'm struggling or suffering, well, then God is absolutely involved in everything, and it's his fault that this is happening. And so it twists it into, instead of God created this and he's the reason it continues and he's the one who gives me any good gift and it's all him. Instead of that, it's all me, and it's either his fault that things are going poorly, or it's me making things good, making the good things happen.
Interesting.
I think I have a thought more in like the self-loathing category. I think for me, the view of God that I've recognized I've been believing for a while is just that what he does, like the grace that we've received through Christ, isn't sufficient. And so it's just largely that my view of God is that his work isn't sufficient, and that he doesn't really love me the ways that he says he does, or care for me the ways that he says he does, or that he's expressed. And so I think a lot of it's just minimizing who I believe God to be.
Yeah. I think for me, I'm still thinking through this. I probably should have done that before we started recording, or probably before the sermon. I'm thinking through like what picture of God raises up in my mind when my pride is out of control. And I think it's a picture of God that maybe expects certain things for me to figure out or to do. Like in my own strength. I'm not talking about like God's enabling grace. I'm like in my own strength. And then when I do something well, then like I have somehow, I don't know, hit the mark, or have then pleased him, or have proven something. So God becomes less of a gift giver and more of maybe someone who expects things. I don't know what the word is for that. Like, and it kind of waits around to see if I'll like get it right or not.
Sort of like a taskmaster or a boss waiting for you to fail.
Yeah, which is so weird that pride could skew a view of God that way. But at least when things are going well, I think, but maybe also even when things are going wrong, because then I just got it wrong, right? I just failed. And so there's still some distance there between like what I'm experiencing and doing and the activity of God in my life.
Have you noticed that when you find yourself viewing God in that way, what's the best way to ask this? It impacts your enjoyment in life, or if life feels harder?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. That makes sense. I feel like I recently caught myself doing something similar. And one of the main takeaways when I realized that was when you are viewing God as a taskmaster, or it's you have to actualize all the commands and live up to it, just how heavy and dark life feels.
Yeah.
Right? Always expectations. Even when things are good, it steals the joy, right? Because I'm just waiting for myself to fail. And if you can get out of that, suddenly, I don't know, the world feels brighter and all the pressure's off your back, right?
Yeah, because then your role is what it actually is to receive, which is the polar opposite of me having to go out and try to accomplish all these things and try to please God and make him happy, or not please him and make him disappointed in some way. Totally different.
Yeah, I saw that come up. I think I've said this before when we were going through Ecclesiastes. Like the main point that was brought up was God's desire for us to enjoy life and enjoy him as the giver of good things. And I think that perspective helped me realize that I was living and functioning under this umbrella of expectation that I believe that God had for me. And I think some of the things that I desired to do were not inherently bad things, but I think the heart I had in them was, God needs me to do this, or else I'm a bad Christian, or I'm not living how I should be living. So I think that was a huge change for me to see God's care and desire for us to enjoy life, and how living under expectation is like totally in opposition to that too.
Yeah, I would just agree with all of that. I think with my background of just legalism, I see, God, I can accept, and I know that God has given me everything I need, and he expects me to perform a certain way. And that's very skewed, I know. But I think about, how our fruit reflects our heart and what we truly believe. And so if I have the knowledge, I have all the knowledge, I have everything I need, then I should be living that out. And so when I come short of living out those, like the fruit of the Spirit, if I don't have patience, like it's a reflection of like what's really in my heart. And so that's my skewed view of God, is that, yes, he has given me everything. So if I have it all, then I should be performing 100%.
Because you have no excuse to do otherwise. Right. That's kind of the line of thought. Yeah. Man. Because pride is really me loving myself, ultimately. right? When it gets down to it, which then gets to the place of desires and loves. And so knowledge doesn't always, I think it's deeper than knowledge. Yeah. So
it's total pride. Like if I'm thinking that after God, like once God gives me everything I need, then it's on me.
And it's up to you.
Then it's on me to perform, to do all those things.
He met you kind of halfway, gave you the knowledge, and now it's up to you to go the rest.
Right. Huh. And that's pride. Absolutely.
Oh, see, that was a good question. That's
fun.
Very fun. Yeah.
Very fun. That's right.
Well, continuing with conversation around pride, Austin, you brought this up earlier, just thinking about the gifts God has given us and the ways that we are just empowered through the Spirit. I think it could be, you were saying that it can be easy for us to kind of swing into a mentality of pride, just even with what we are unable to do through God. So how can we kind of prevent that? How do we get ourselves out of that? And Austin, if I asked that poorly, definitely correct anything to make that a little clearer too.
Yeah, no correction. You did great. But yeah, that was the thought during the sermon, right? Probably because I was watching you up on stage giving the sermon. I thought, yeah, God's given us gifts and skills, and He wants us to use those, for His glory and the good of others. But as soon as we use those gifts successfully, that temptation comes in of, hey, I'm doing pretty good. This is me. So the first thought was, so like when you're giving a sermon, how do you fight that temptation? Or when you're successful in ministry or crushing parenting, really whenever you're using any of those gifts, how do you, I guess, recognize and fight or push against that pride?
I think I definitely struggle with like questioning my motives of why I'm doing the thing. If whatever the skill is, whatever the gift is that I'm using, God's gift to serve others, like nursing, for instance. Like I'm serving a group of people that need my gifts, as a nurse. But as soon as I am asked, I need you to put this IV because you are great at putting IVs in, it's like, that's kind of, it feels good. The pride creeps in, and I am a great nurse at this specific thing. But the motive, and I think that I work at the Alpha Center, and so I definitely, my role there as a nurse is very different than my role was at the hospital. And so there is a lot of motive change. Like I have to question my motives when I'm there and how I'm serving my patients and just what they truly need there. So I think a lot of times just questioning my motives of when I'm serving, when I'm using my gifts. Is it for me or is it for my patients? And I'm thankful that in nursing, my patients do humble me because their stories, it's not about me. It's about them and their story and their struggle and what they need. But that doesn't always happen in other areas, as I mentioned earlier with parenting.
Mm-hmm. And there's like a good piece of this, isn't there? That God's given you a gift, let's say being able to put IVs in really, really well, it being recognized, that feels good. Like there's something still good about that. But there's also this point where then it becomes twisted. And where maybe, Austin, you said this, we start to credit ourselves for something with that. There's some line in there where this good sense of pride, this good sense of, God's given me some great things to serve other people, becomes twisted into maybe reflecting back on how innately we're just so much better, I guess, than somebody else. I don't know.
This isn't something that I do, but I feel like anytime that I'm riding some kind of success and like, yes, I did a great job, I'm usually very quickly humbled. Like I feel like that would happen a lot. Like when youth and college would be on the same days, I noticed it especially. And I think it's interesting because those two, I feel like something's usually going great in one ministry and then it's very hard or discouraging in the other. And that's kind of what helps keep me a little bit more humble. But like I would leave and it was like a great youth group and I was like, yes, I did a great job today. And then I'd go to college study and something would just completely discourage me. I'm like, it's not about me. Like I didn't do anything and I've done terrible. Well, maybe it would actually swing the other way then. But I think the Lord like kind of uses my role in both of those to expose like where pride comes in, or like big changes that we've had in the youth group recently like have gone well, and I think it was easy to kind of let that get to my head quickly. And then I feel like things with college ministry were really hard, so it was just kind of like gaining some perspective through just the ways that both of those ebb and flow. And I think what you were saying, Deanna, too, like remembering my motives and what I do is about. Like, it's not about me presenting myself in the best way or leading really great or creating the most fun environment possible, but it's really about how are all of these students growing in their own love for God. And I think remembering that as the true like reason that I'm doing anything that I'm doing is really helpful too. And that's not about numbers either, but just really about how they're growing to love God more.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, right? The gratitude piece. I wonder how much of what we do gets twisted up when we start viewing it as an identity sort of thing. Deanna, when you mentioned the IV, I feel like I've had similar stories, right? If they just ask you to do something, that's one thing. But as soon as they say, because you are this, it is sort of like they've put a label on you, or it's how they view you. I feel like I've had people say similar stuff, and then it's all very well-meaning and it's good, but then inside of me, I twist it and think, oh, now from now on, I have to be good at this thing, and if I ever fail, I will no longer be because you are good at this.
Interesting.
Which is totally an internal thing, right? People listening, don't stop complimenting others or anything, right? Stop giving compliments because you put people in a box, right? It's not that at all, but we take on the identity, and it really is then all about me, right?
Yeah, totally. Because then when you fail, I know for me, I'm afraid to fail at something that everybody thinks I'm really good at, because I'm like, once they see that I fail, then I'm a fraud.
The pressure.
And
Yes.
so that there definitely is there.
Yeah, well, and that sneaks in too, and then you lose this authenticity, right? I've seen it happen in Bible studies for me or anything. You know, if someone says you're good at it, it's like, all right, well, now I can never admit that I'm struggling in this because people's view of me is going to fall. Yeah. And it's the whole backwards point of what Christian community is, right? Where you can be yourself or show your weakness and be cared for, right?
Man, it's layered, isn't it?
Yeah.
The motives, I think, is a huge piece. Deanna and Betty, you both hit on this. A prayer that I have found myself praying often is that, God, would you help me to desire your glory over my own? Like in my head and heart, that's what hits it on the head for me, rather than wanting myself to receive, glory, but rather the desire the other way. I think that's what we see happening in the Corinthian church. This is some of my speculation, but I think we're going to see in the coming chapters that they are glorying in all sorts of things they should not be glorying in. And the things that are really good that they are glorying in, which is a hard word to say, are things that God has done and that God has given them in the first place.
Is that a word?
Glorying? I don't know. I make words all the time.
Yeah, that is true. One more question before the final question. Eric, you were mentioning 5 different graces that we see God gives to Christians in these verses. I'm going to ask kind of 2 questions here. You can choose which one you want to answer, or you can answer both.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Out of these 5 graces, which is the hardest for you to accept or see in your Christian walk, and or which of these 5 is the most encouraging to you?
I think for me, as we went through each one of them, the first 4, God's grace given to them in Jesus. God has enriched them in speech and all knowledge. God confirmed the truth about Jesus among them, and God sustains us guiltless till the end. Growing up in the church and knowing these truths, I don't question these truths. It's the truth. It's just black and white for me. But the last one, where God called them into fellowship with Jesus. Eric, you mentioned like calling us to sharing in the sonship of Jesus. And that's just it just seems very hard and very distant, very unreachable, that we share in the sonship of Jesus. Like, it just, for me, I just envision Christ's sonship is unattainable, but it doesn't make sense because I know that we receive that grace. But it just, I don't know what that looks like. It just seems like it's out there. Like it's too big for me to grasp what that means, and what that looks like. And that I'm just so lowly to be able to share in something so grand as a sonship, as equal, like as how Jesus shared, like has
That's
that
crazy.
sonship. Yeah.
Eric, Austin?
All of these, I guess, blow my mind to some extent. But the one that's sticking out to me right now is that God has enriched us in Jesus, all speech, all knowledge, so that we're not lacking in any gift as we wait for the revealing of Jesus. That we have everything we need to be able to wait well for the coming of Jesus. Which means there's like not some book out there I really need to go read, and if I don't read that, then somehow I can't wait well, or some other group I need to be a part of, or some other, I don't know, thing that I have to have in my life in order to wait well for when Jesus comes back. But rather, I have this local church, and in this local church, by God's grace, I have everything I need to wait well right now. That's incredibly both challenging and also really, really encouraging for me.
Yeah, Eric, that was the one that stood out to me as I was listening to you both, and I was thinking, I think I also tend to view how far and unattainable Christ is compared to how I've been living. So then I look at, number 2, we've been enriched in every way, and I think, wow, it feels like there's a long way to go. I don't know, but even while I was sitting here thinking, I have to think if I were to view when I was first saved or beforehand versus where I am now, how much work Christ has done in me or in any of us, right? And maybe that's just a natural, I don't tend to naturally think on how far I've come and instead dwell on how far there is to go or how far I fall short. But yeah, the Spirit really has done an incredible work, and you can see those changes. I probably wouldn't want to see it, but it almost makes you wish you could just see a day of how you lived beforehand versus where you are now. Yeah, we've been given a lot, and a lot has been done to us. You're right. That's encouraging. And yeah, there's still a long way to go, but maybe that's something I can do more, is reflect on all the work God's done in me so far.
I think the one that stands out most to me is that we are sustained guiltless to the end by God. And I think that's both a challenge and an encouragement for me. And I think the challenge comes in like with this conversation of pride, like constantly wrestling with, no, I'm the one who's like making myself guiltless before God, or I'm the one who needs to be doing this work to just be seen a certain way by God, and neglecting the truth that I am chosen and holy and beloved, and that Christ has done the work in me. And then this is an encouragement because Christ is doing the work and has done the work, and I am not, and I don't have to, and I can't. I think that's probably the biggest thing. I can't live up to the standard that I want to live up to, and that's okay because Christ has done it all.
Yeah, and this is a promise, isn't it? This is still in the future, but he will sustain you to the end, guiltless, on the day when he comes back.
That had to have been amazing to them based on what else Paul wrote in this, right? I was just thinking it would have made so much sense if it was just you'd be sustained, not guiltless.
Right.
It was like, hey, he'll get you there. It's not going to be pretty, but he'll get you there. But it says guiltless. Yeah.
Yeah, keep that in mind as we go through these following chapters, right?
Yeah, I was going to say it'd be nice to come back to this maybe at the end just to be reminded. Well, that was a great discussion. We're not finished yet. One more question. And that is, through these verses and through this conversation too, what is God like? Do you like that question, Eric?
I love that question. The thing that stood out to me is to me no surprise at all, but that he's a gracious giver. He's the one doing all of this. It's all grace. It's none of it's earned, none of it's merited. He's giving over and over and over again from the beginning to the end, everything in between. He's giving, and he's gracious. He's lavishing these gifts on us, and so we get to receive.
Yeah. I think I see God's love in these passages, and especially as a loving father. For me personally, that's been one of the biggest weapons against pride, or Eric, like you mentioned, feeling like I need to achieve a certain amount, is just picturing a father with a young son, right? There's nothing that son has to do to earn the father's love. And that helps me to sit and be okay and just experience the love. I think you see part of that here.
That's good.
I just agree with that. Just a gracious giver. Like he gives, we receive. And that's how I have to just continue to see our Heavenly Father.
Yeah, I agree with that too, actually. Right when I said that, I was like, well, that's definitely what I'm going to say. So yes, I agree. And that he's just so like abundantly gracious. We don't do something that makes him like, well, I don't want to give that to you anymore. Yeah. But he is faithful too. I think that's another thing. He's faithful to be this gracious giver that we know. So
it's good news.
Yeah, it is. Great. Well, thanks for joining us, Austin and Deanna.
Thanks for having us.
This is great conversation. Next week, we will be in 1 Corinthians 1.
I believe it's verses 10 through 17.
10 through 17. Yeah. Not chapters 10 through 17.
Verses 10 through 17.
Great. Well, thanks for listening. We'll see you. You'll hear us. We'll be back next week.
It's hard to land the plane, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.